Today we're going to talk about permit zoning and HOAs. Basically why you can't just put whatever you want on your land.
What is zoning? Zoning is usually designated by a small town or a county or any other municipality that tells you how you can use your land. Whether it's farmland, commercial, or just residential. And that way, nobody gets anything mixed up. You can't put a farm in a residential, and you can't put commercial in a residential, or residential in a commercial. It keeps everybody safe, it keeps everybody's property values up, and the city is able to plan their communities.
One is, what is an HOA and why should I care?
An HOA stands for Homeowners Association. This also protects your property values. That way your neighbor can't put a junkyard at their house right next door to you. That would bring your property value down. I call HOAs the neighborhood police. Sometimes, some people are fine with HOAs. I'm not, for several reasons. HOAs, they dictate what color you can paint your house, what type of windows you can have in your house, what type of roof you can have on your house, what type of fencing, how tall your grass can be. That drives me crazy. That's why I chose, for us, to live outside of town in the country. That way there's no HOAs to dictate how we use our land.
The first thing you really need to do when you purchase, or before you even purchase a piece of land, definitely ask the realtor or the developer, whoever you're purchasing the land from, if there is any type of deed restrictions. When we lived in a subdivision in Houston, we knew there were deed restrictions. We read them. We were okay with them because of the fact that it was a subdivision and we were expecting that. What we weren't expecting is the fact that the HOA, the members of the board would come out and measure the grass because there was a rule as your grass couldn't be more than so many inches, and they would actually come and mow it and then send you a bill for mowing it. This is an expectation that you need to have if you are in a subdivision and you have HOAs. Don't think just because you're in the country you don't have HOAs. We found this out when we tried to purchase actually 2 pieces of land in the Lafayette area. The first one, it was way out in the country. There was cows across the street with barbed wire. We were like, oh, it's way out in the country, it's on a gravel road, way off the beaten path, there's no deed restrictions. We found out the developer had to approve everything. He had to approve what type of housing you had on there. No RVs, no boats. At that point, we were planning on living in our RV while we were building our home, and we had to sell that piece of land because it did not work for our needs. Then we attempted to purchase a different piece of land. It was allowed for horses and allowed for small animals, but what they didn't tell us is that the power company only came to the first 100 feet of the property, and anything beyond that, you had to provide your own power. At that point, we weren't ready to live off-grid. That would have been perfect for somebody who wanted to live off-grid, but it just didn't work for us at the time. So we also sold that piece and wound up going back to Houston and then to Lubbock, and at that point we knew what we were looking for. We knew the first thing we did was, when we bought a piece of land, is we found an area that didn't have deed restrictions. The only restrictions for the piece of property that we have is it must be hooked up to city sewer and city water. They don't care what you have for electrical. Ours is going to be a hybrid, and we'll get more into that. But basically, The only thing is with animals also, we've called the county, we've called the city, we've called, probably made a dozen phone calls trying to find out what animals we can have on there. The rule is that if you live so many feet from the city, that you can't, it's 350 feet?
No, it's 300 feet from the city limit line.
Yes, Steven's the one who has made the majority of these calls, and from that line, we'll go ahead and explain what the city told you.
And what the city told us, and I measured it, they don't care what type of animals we have, whether it's goats, sheep, pigs, chickens,
rabbits,
as long as our farm, our land, is 300 feet from the city limit line. Now come to find out, 1.5 streets over is the city limit line. There's a pig farm.
Which is how many
So
feet?
the front of our property to his property is around 250 feet. So we fall right within their boundaries. So they don't have an issue with the types of animals that we have, or the number of animals. The only thing that dictates the number of animals is the size of our small homestead, which is around 1/2 acre. So, no matter what you're building, always get a permit.
That was my next question.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would like to also go back, when you're looking for land and you're using a land agent, broker, land broker,
Real estate agent.
real estate agent, realtor, always double check what they tell you. If they say there's no deed restrictions, rather than being surprised, go down, do your own research, find out from the county, from the city, from the state, whatever you need to do. Do your own due diligence, do your own research to be safe, so you won't buy a piece of land and be stuck with it and not be able to do what you want to do.
And my recommendation is, before you actually go to the title company and sign it, call the title company. Ask them for you already know the address, probably more than likely. Get the legal description from them. Go down to that county courthouse. At the least, make a call. And then go down and ask them, is there any restrictions on this property? The county is the best source of information. They can pull that up. They will tell you, and you can get a copy of it. Now, they're going to charge you so much per page for printing it out, but it's usually under 20, 25 cents. I've never seen it higher than 25 cents. And you got to understand that it's worth it when it's going to save you thousands of dollars down the road trying to unload a property for cheaper than you paid for it at a loss, just because it doesn't meet what you're trying to do with the property. That happened to us once in Lafayette. I don't know if it was a lack of communication or if the realtor just didn't understand what we were trying to do.
So, the point is, do your due diligence. Don't be surprised. Get a copy of any deed restrictions. Learn them. And if you're okay living by them, great. If there is none, get confirmation, a signed document there is no deed restrictions. This will save you thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours while
And a
you're
headache.
and a big headache, and while you're trying to build your own homestead.
If it's small, under 200 square feet, do I still need a permit?
Used
Like I
to,
said,
under the old rule, the answer would be no. But over the last few years, that rule has changed. So whether it's 10 square feet, 200 square feet, or 2,000 square feet, check, check, check. Get with your county or city officials or municipality officials and obtain a permit if one is needed.